Surely the chicken wrangler will be here, won't he?
That was the chicken.
Van?
He's in South America.
No, Mexico.
Mexico.
Oh, Mexico. Okay,
He sent some comments.
Did he? All right. Cheers now.
Anything else for me?
I think you already did. Unless you want.
Did we sign the?
Yes.
I'm here. All right, 5 o'clock on my timepiece. So I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Open Meetings Act is posted on the northwest wall as always. And Lisa, go ahead and call the roll.
Skylar,
Here.
Sean,
Here.
Brad,
Yes.
and Vance is absent.
Is that an excused absence?
I believe so.
Okay. All right, would you join me in the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, everybody. Move on to the consent agenda, item 2. And as always, everything can be approved in one motion. You can address them individually. The minutes, the claims, treasurer's report, and the department reports.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? Call the roll.
Sean,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Skylar,
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Move on to item 3, appointments in the mayor's report. I don't know what to report on for sure. Did it do anything lately? Mostly worked on appointments, so I think we'll just get to those. We got a number of them to catch up on over the last few months. So we'll start with the Committee on Housing. Jason Nelson agreed to take on another 3-year term, and Ty Shelborn has agreed that he would consider a 3-year term.
I'll make a motion to approve the mayor's reappointment of Jason Nelson with a term ending in 4/8/2025, and appointment of Ty Shelburne with terms ending in 4/8/2025.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Go ahead and call the roll.
Brad,
Yes.
Skylar,
Aye.
Sean,
Yes.
All right, motion carried unanimously. Next, we have the library board. These are 4-year terms, both reappointments. Phyllis Leach and Stacy Gillen both agreed to another term on the library board.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Phyllis Leach and Stacy Gillen with terms ending 4/30/2026.
Motion and second, any discussion? Call the roll.
Skylar,
Aye.
Sean,
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Sellers Barton Cabin Advisory Board, these are 3-year terms again. And Brian Johnson had expressed interest in being involved with that committee, so recommend him, and reappointment of Carolyn Shipwright, both for 3-year terms.
I move to appoint Brian Johnson, term ending 4/12/2025, and reappoint Carolyn Shipwright, term ending 4/12/2025.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Call roll.
Sean,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Skylar,
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. And this is, last one is a Citizen Advisory Review Committee. This is actually the recommendation from the Chamber of Commerce. It's not the mayor's appointment, but Chamber recommends appointing Lacey Marbury with a 4-year term.
I move to appoint Lacey Marbury to a term of the Citizens Advisory Review Committee, term ending 3/8/2026.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Call roll.
Brad?
Yes.
Tyler?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
All right, thanks, guys. I think we are caught up on committee appointments until August now is the next meeting. See if we can deal with it. Lot of committees in town, a lot of volunteers helping us out. Item 4, we don't have any public hearings tonight, so we will move on to 5, old business. And this is to discuss potential amendments to ordinances regarding poultry. The committee, Vance hired, Lisa and I met a few weeks ago. Lisa had some good examples from other communities that allow poultry, so we took parts from those. One community in particular had a pretty thorough example, so I think we really utilized a lot of their guidelines. We agreed on a lot of things. There were some other things that we didn't have a full consensus, so we thought the best thing to do would be to bring it tonight, discuss as a group where we fall out on those items, and then the hope would be that next month's meeting we could have an actual ordinance to consider at that time. So tonight's just discussion, and I don't know if somebody wants to start, or if there's people in the audience that are here for that discussion, that's great too, so.
I can start, I guess. Reading through that proposal that you, Lisa and Vance did, by the way, thank you very much for going and sitting down and doing that. It says that under 10,000 square feet, there's 6 chickens, and over 10,000 square feet, there is 12 chickens. My opinion is just leave it totally at 6. No matter how big your property is, no more than 6 chickens would be my opinion.
I agree with that, because really, 6 chickens is gonna be feeding a pretty good sized family, so the rest would be for the resale or.
And you can't do that.
Right. So, I think that's sufficient.
So what about my property? My property is seen as within the city limits, but it's seen as an agricultural unit. On the backside of the slaughterhouse. So can I have certain privileges on top of that or not? Is that just going to stay 6? Because I mean, it is seen as an agricultural unit.
I think the way that the way that we've drafted the ordinance is just within city limit. So
Sure.
regardless of what your zoning is, the tie back to the zoning and the land use is the way we've drafted it, would be on any construction of a coop, would have to meet all of the zoning. So for you, I think part of your lot's in city limits and part is out of city limit, isn't it?
Ma'am, no, the whole unit is like,
All in city.
we looked at it last time, the whole unit is within city limits. But I mean, the slaughterhouse is my neighbor on the backside, and we've got that 5 acres in the back.
They're in city limits too.
I know. So,
So yeah, it would, the only zoning tie-in would just be on the construction of the coop. That would, it's just the setbacks.
Vance did email some comments since he wasn't able to be here, and one of them was in regard to that. And he says his preference is to strike the 12. He agrees 6 is a good limit for the standard lot, but if someone within city limits has adequate land and facilities to properly house the chickens, he could see where more could be allowable. So that's Vance's opinion on that.
He said to strike it? That's what you
And I
said?
said,
Max.
yeah, it says strike the DAP of 12, so I think that's a typo. Maybe he was typing it on his phone, sending an email or something. Maybe that was the max of 12, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I bet that's what he's
Just type the max.
That would make sense.
saying that if you had more land, you could have more. I mean, personally, I like the way it's written. I think it's pretty reasonable not to have a line. I mean, there's a lot of people in town. I mean, I'd say probably a lot of properties are more than, I mean, I think a standard lot is about 9,000 square foot. And I know a ton of properties or people that have multiple lots. I mean, so I think that it's, would be up to the person, I guess, if they think they have the space for it, as long as it meets the setbacks and, the coop and facility size. I think, I don't think 12 is unreasonable for a good sized lot. I guess that'd be my personal opinion.
For public purposes, do you want me to overview kind of what we've got here?
Yeah, would you like, yeah, that'd be a good idea, to kind of overview what we.
We'll just do a quick overview kind of what the draft is that we have written here. Basically, it's, would be chickens only. Again, this is a draft proposition. Chickens only, so no turkeys, ducks, geese, peacocks, no other poultry would be allowed.
Does chickens mean hens?
Um,
Sounds like you want roosters.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know, I think later on it says no roosters.
Yeah, no roosters or cocks of 2 months of age or older. Basically, those would be unallowed and would be declared a public nuisance if we had it, so that it would fall under the nuisance ordinance for, basically public noise and other issues. You can't, you would have to have a permit issued by the city to have the chickens, so it'd be sort of similar to like licensing your dog. You'd have to come in and fill out a paper.
It'd be an annual permit, a blanket permit for all.
An annual permit, and I have a draft form here that we would use. That also kind of lays out what the highlights of the ordinance are. It'd be a $20 permit fee per year, and it would run with the calendar year, so January 1 through December 31. And part of the permitting really is because of the tie-in from the zoning for the coop. It'd be kind of like a site plan, like a building permit. You'd have to show where you're placing the coop on your property, so we can make sure it's set back, from your neighbors' houses, things like that. Let's see. So the way we have written is we've just been discussing, a typical lot is 9 to 10,000 square feet, so we have discussed 6 chickens per standard lot with no more than 12 on any lot larger than 10,000 square feet. They would have to be housed in a facility and a run approved by the city, which is that tie-in to the site plat. And the city would have to approve that. The chicken coop would have to be in good repair, of course, couldn't become a nuisance condition, it would have to be maintained and cleaned. That it would had to be built in such a way that it wouldn't disturb the neighboring residents due to noise, odor, or threats to public health. The chicken facility and run would have to be constructed in such a way that it would prevent the chickens from running at large. That was also kind of a discussion point that we had at the subcommittee.
Yep.
The run would have to be attached to the coop and constructed to include metal wire and fencing anchored to the ground and a fully enclosed roof to ensure that there's no entry by predators. And that the coop would have to be constructed of durable material with some kind of a flooring or a hard surface so that it could be cleaned. The coop is not less than 3 cubic feet per chicken. And the run should be not more than 5 cubic feet per chicken. That it could not be located in any front yard of a property and would have to be located at least 20 feet away from any neighboring residence.
Just for clarification on that, Lisa, that's 20 feet from like a house, not like a lot line, correct?
Right, the primary residence, yes. The chicken facility and run would have to comply with all of the other applicable city building and zoning codes and consistent with the land use. Any offal manure or waste would not be allowed to accumulate and would need to be cleaned at least every 7 days and disposed of sanitarily. And all of your feed and grain for your chickens would have to be kept in, a tight container to keep out vermin and animals. And no slaughtering of chickens within the corporate limits of this city, which was also kind of a discussion at another end. So that's kind of the basic rundown on what's in this draft document.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm hoping to get to is, there's the 3 items, one of which we already discussed, the numbers, the running at large, and the slaughter of chickens in town. Those 3 items, the committee kind of had disagreements, so we were hoping we could get a consensus to come up with a more final language that you guys could live with to present next week. So already, like on the numbers, Brad he's like 6, Skylar liked what was in it, and Dan said, no, we don't need a maximum, so should we kind of hang with what we had, or?
I'm gonna stick with my 6 total.
Stick with 6 total?
We'll see how it shakes out probably when, we're not gonna vote on this today, I don't think.
Right, right.
So I guess maybe we'll see how it comes out when we're all together and.
Nobody on here has ever raised chickens, hens, ever laying.
Don't have any choice to, don't even plan to do it.
I have. 6 is probably gonna get you more eggs than most, when the chickens are laying. Of course, they're going to molt at times of the year, but when they're laying, you're gonna get a lot of eggs, and way more than a family of 4 could eat, if you eat a lot of eggs.
So maybe we're in that 6 to 12 range is probably reasonable somewhere, that we could work that out when we get to official language. Does that sound okay?
Does any of those ordinances talk about consent of adjoining neighbors?
Yeah, one of them did.
One of them did.
For sure, one.
We have that written into ordinances regarding hooked animals currently, that you have to have the consent of every adjoining neighbor, and then it's issued under special permit, and then you have to have zoning setbacks and so much square foot per animal and things of that nature.
Any of them talk about hatching eggs? I see you've got a 2-month limit on, you can't have any males in there over 2 months old. I assume that maybe that's the purpose of that, that if they're hatching the eggs, are they incubating the eggs to chickens, or new hens, as they die and replacing them with their own eggs?
That's tough when you can't have a rooster.
Yeah, and that's kind of gets to the question about slaughter, because when this issue came up, my personal, my impression was that people wanted chickens to have eggs. But during our discussion, Vance brought up, well, some people want to raise them for meat. Well, that's a whole different deal to me, which raising chicks is another whole different deal. So do we have language in there that this is for egg production for personal use only? Prohibiting, we talked about prohibiting slaughter of chickens in town. That's kind of the crux of that question. Is this for eggs, or is this for other purposes?
I think if you stick with your limit, only having 6, that as long as you're not butchering it out on your front step for the whole neighborhood to see that, as long as you stay in your guidelines of how many you got, if you wanna butcher it, I don't see a problem. Especially in this day and age with what groceries are. Just don't do it, you know, right out in public where everybody can watch you, you know?
There was some language in there too, and I was kinda thrown back by it, but they said a dead chicken, you can double bag it and throw it in the garbage. And I
I think that was a permit, I believe.
I thought that was probably, is that right? That was said, not, where did I read that at?
I think it's in the permit.
What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you want it thrown in the garbage or not.
Well, we
My
have this right
question
now.
too is, how are you gonna sanitarily dispose of the waste, because people pretty much put anything in the trash?
We deal with that a lot now anyway, truth be told, there's everything from fishing, swimming, stuff, you name it. And for the city's preference, I know for the people having to come into contact with that, double bagging, if you're going to throw it away, is the preference. So at least it's
Double bag, yeah.
sealed up, it's not gonna explode in the cycle or.
I was thinking about the heat, stuff sometimes it's out there, I'm looking out for the people that are on the garbage truck and stuff that breaks open and stuff. I know, you said, you know, the different things that get thrown in that garbage should not be thrown in there, it does anyway. You know, how are we ever going to enforce that, which would be impossible, you know?
We talked about that quite a bit at subcommittee, actually, quite a long time. I think some of the actual consensus on the group was that it shouldn't be thrown in the garbage at all. You should have to dispose of it yourself, but that's not going to happen.
Nope.
So if you're gonna put it in the trash, at least be respectful of how you use that.
How are you gonna enforce that?
Well, that was another issue on the subcommittee with some of this, is enforcement. That would be difficult. Obviously, it's difficult now, that's why we have problems with it now. All you can do is ask people to try to do the right thing.
Which is not unlike many ordinances in town, you know, I don't think enforcement, how we're gonna do it, should necessarily be a deciding factor, because there's a lot of things that are difficult to enforce. And if you write a good ordinance, that people can get on board with, then that's just the next step. You implement it and you go with it. My opinion on
Where do you stand on the slaughter, Brad?
How often they do it, though? I don't like them throwing them in garbage. Yeah, I agree, I think it should just be for raising eggs only. But, you know, if you have one that dies, you slaughter it or whatever like that, the guts and all that stuff, you know. Myself, I don't think it should go in the garbage, but I'm sure people come home after a big fishing trip and clean their fish, and it goes right in the garbage can, which.
Yeah, the same with hunting season. I mean, hunting season, if you go to the dump, there's a lot of guys that brings a lot of waste to the dump from the deers that they shot.
My only fear with the slaughtering is, and maybe it's not, it's just a concern, I don't know that I have a lot of, experience or data to back it up, but, I don't know, I just feel like that could draw in cones, boxes, you've got, if somebody's not cleaning up their mess properly and that's in the yard, is that gonna draw in more?
It invites, you know, the neighbors' pets to come over too, and, you know, the blood and stuff like that, or the scrappings you leave behind and stuff like that. It's inviting other animals to, like you're saying,
Yeah.
come in your yard.
I just think that could raise a lot of, issues for, I don't know how much of an interest it is for people in town to wanna do that. I mean, if there's only 2 or 3 people that are interested in doing that, maybe the issues that would cause, I don't know.
Really, what's
Is
the
that
difference
worth it?
though, that if you live in town and you go out pheasant hunting, or you go dove hunting? I bring them home to clean them. I mean, what's the little difference? You just got a different species, it's same carcass, same guts.
And see, that's something I don't do, I'm not familiar with any of that stuff, I don't do any of that, so I'm something there.
So it's really not as different than, it's the same carcass, just a little bit different size.
So you got this chicken that's old or not laying or whatever. You can't slaughter it, so you just take it over to a different neighborhood and turn it loose. It shouldn't be along with the feral cats in the sewer.
Hopefully a dog gets it.
Oh, I think people get attached to them, they just couldn't do that.
Well, I think there's a difference if you're getting layers or broilers, then you probably should specify that because, you know, if you're gonna have broilers, I mean, people could conceivably get a dozen and raise them up and butcher them and then get another dozen and butcher them and so on. Whereas if you just have layers, you just got the same chickens and you don't have that kind of turnover.
I just personally feel like the ownership of the chicken or the whole chicken ordinance would be more palatable to more people if it was only eggs and not being raised for.
I think, just from my understanding, I don't think there's a lot of people who do, raise broilers. But I mean, you know, there's also not an ordinance that allows it, so maybe that's why. I guess, I mean, we could always potentially amend it in the future too. I mean, if we pass this and, you know, goes smooth, no issues or concerns, then maybe in the future we could, you know, wouldn't take much to just strike that one, you know, section.
That's where I can see where people would want more chickens, if they are doing broilers and stuff like that, and they want quite a few more, but I don't like the idea, as of right now. I'm like you, Stan, Skylar, to see how this goes. Like, it wouldn't take much to add something, take something out of the ordinance in the future.
And the thing is, like, I mean, we are here because this discussion has been a problem in the past. It's been a problem, that's why we're here. So the rules should be set so it can't be a problem, it shouldn't be a problem. I mean, we're not allowed to murder and yet people murder. I mean, there's people in jail for that. So the rules should be set in a way that it won't be a problem in the future anymore. And to accommodate everybody, and just, I mean, like, I agree with you guys, then if you have to change something in the future, see how it goes, and if the people abide by that, and then work from there.
Yeah, and the way the code works, I mean, essentially, if this was adopted, you know, and somebody's not following it, somebody violates it, and for whatever reason, I don't know what that would be, but then it's penalized in a similar fashion. It's a misdemeanor
Yes, ma'am.
offense. So it's a fine and a ticket. Just kind of like a dangerous dog or anything else.
Because I think we'd get a good census then, after maybe a couple of years on the ones that do have it, and how many do have, you know, we might even be talking about 5 or 6 residents in town, maybe more than that. But now I can kind of get an idea of how well these facilities are staying clean. So, you know, if they're not getting clean and stuff like that, I'm gonna be in favor of giving them more chickens.
And that was part of the permit too, the application, basically, it's, you know, when you sign the permit, you're authorizing, you know, that somebody could inspect that. If there was a complaint, that somebody could come and see, you know, is it a mess?
Was there anything in the ordinances about if there's an odor complaint, you could revoke the permit?
That's on the application.
Or is there any way to revoke it? Is it good for the whole year, no matter what they do?
That'd fall under the nuisance, so when this, then we could do
But
it.
that's how we wrote the permit.
Maybe.
You know, if it's odorous or, you know, there's issues to public health potentially because it's not being cleaned up, things like that could fall under the nuisance citation, and they can be asked to 10 days or whatever to clean them up.
Is there have you said that there's a distance from the property line that could?
Distance from neighboring residents, or the personal residents, I guess.
Why would it be a resident?
It's kind of twofold. it says it has to comply with the zoning ordinance, so if your coop would have to be, depending on how your lot is zoned, you know, if you're an R1 or an R2 or a commercial lot, it's different what your setback from your property line is.
Okay,
And then two, we added in there for good measure that it would have to be 20 feet from the actual residence.
yeah.
So it's kind of a twofold test on
Is that from the personal residence or from any residence?
I wouldn't want 20 feet from my house.
Right.
I should mention Vance's other comments, getting back to the slaughter, he said to remove that, so he'd be like, what the plan said, we would see a reason to not allow slaughter because of other, and that's sort of where our discussion was too. You're able to bring a pheasant to town and other things. But- So Vance would remove that, item 2. And the other thing he would comment on was about the definition of at-large. He said that in his view, chickens should have the coop run, but roaming in a fenced backyard during the day would be acceptable. So that, our discussion was, do they have to be in the run, or can you just let them run around your backyard if it's a fenced backyard? I would assume if it's not fenced, I would assume you wouldn't have your chickens.
Put them on a leash.
Virtual fencing or whatever. But those were Vance's comments. I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of those too.
I guess I mean, I feel like it's probably maybe not quite as safe to have them free range, but I mean, I guess I don't really have an opinion on that.
I think they ought to stay in the coop or the run. Keep them confined as much as you can. We've already got stipulations on how many square feet per chicken you can have, so in the run, at the minimum, not saying they can have more than that, but I think they need to stay within their coop or the run.
Yeah, the thing is, if you don't have a coop and say for instance your birds does get bird flu, other birds that flew to the feed buckets or whatever, and it gets to the neighbors' chickens, whatever, then everything's got bird flu. So I think it should be in a coop, or in a confinement. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also, I mean, you wouldn't be able to guarantee the, you know, distance from lot line either if it was free range.
Plus it looks nicer, you know, someone driving through town, they can go through the neighborhood, everybody's got their kind of hee-haw town. At least if they're all in the coop and they're contained, it looks somewhat nice still, you know.
So it sounds like we have a bit of a consensus there, coop and run.
The run size, that was a minimum or a maximum when that was phrased? I thought it was a max, didn't you phrase it as a maximum of 5 cubic feet?
Not less.
Not less?
Yeah, it says not more than 5 cubic.
Yeah,
Not less than 3, not more than 5.
yeah, 5 cubic feet per chicken.
So 6 chickens, you're going to be,
It's a 5 by 6, 1 foot tall. That's kind of a small space for 6 chickens.
per chicken.
Yeah, that's per chicken.
Per chicken, yeah.
5 cubic feet per chicken. Okay. So that
yeah.
means yeah,
It's 5 by 6, it's 4 foot tall.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I like the way it's written, but I'm also kind of, you know, in favor of more, letting people do more, so I guess that's kind of where I stand on it.
So remove the slaughter probably, stay with the coop and the run, maybe we can double check those numbers as far as size of
I was
the
gonna say
run.
that's, yeah.
That does seem awful small.
It does, we can double check that, adjust that possibly. And the number, I guess we'll maybe write it up in the middle of the road,
Well,
6 and 12, and
If
see
we're,
what.
if we're allowing people to do broiler chickens, then, you know, probably 6 wouldn't really be enough. I mean, if they have layers and broilers, it'd be.
But I don't think we're gonna allow broilers at this point, maybe in the future.
didn't you say you were gonna remove slaughter, or did you say, what, maybe I missed it?
We can allow slaughter, but that, I mean, that could be taken a couple different ways. We could, if it was the consensus, we could add in, this is for egg laying purposes only, not for raising for food. But still, if you have, you may have a hen that isn't laying, you gotta do something with her, you know? Once in a while, you might wanna butcher one.
I had a
Just
thought.
take it out in the country and butcher it.
Yeah, and I don't really,
You're losing your narrative.
I don't wanna get the ordinance too, you know, packed with, you know, random stuff, but, you can also maybe consider like a special slaughtering area, or like, you know, maybe have to do it in a garage, or like you can do it outside, or, I don't know, some kind of restrictions on that. I mean, like I said, I kinda like having just a simple ordinance without getting too many details in it, but something to consider.
That's kind of where I was at too. As long as you're just not doing it right out in public, but you don't take it to the garage and do it. I mean, I'm sure people are gonna do it anyways.
Another one of
You
those
got one that's
common
not laying
sense
eggs, you're
things.
gonna take it to the garage and butcher it and throw it in the freezer. There are people gonna do it regardless of what they.
Common sense. Any other comments? I think we got some good feedback. I think we could probably come up with something to at least propose, and that doesn't mean that you guys wouldn't have an opportunity to adjust that again. So, any other comments?
What protection do the neighbors have when their dog or cat gets into the coop and kills the chickens? I've been there, done that.
Sounds like dog at large or cat at large to me.
Uh-huh. And we had never figured out how he got into, and this was a garage, got into the garage to kill about 10 or 12 chickens. He had fun. Until the next day when he was no longer alive and I had to pay for 12 chickens.
Yeah. I did visit with the sheriff's office about that a little, just anticipating that, that's a pretty real possibility. Basically, it's, you know, dog at large, if the dog is out of their own fenced yard, obviously that's an issue with that, and then, because it's misdemeanor offenses, it goes through court, there's probably restitution on the damage of, you know, so much per chicken.
And the city has a problem with all your cats that live in the sewer that aren't licensed.
There may be some feral cats in town.
Maybe, along with
I
the
can't
possums
confirm
and
or deny that.
raccoons.
Here you go, when your chicken dies, it baits the trap for the feral cats.
There you go.
Yeah, it's gonna be like the range wars, the sheep and the cattle, it's gonna be the chickens versus the dogs in Ainsworth. But yeah, that's gonna be kind of, I think, between the owners of those animals. But unless there's any other comments, I think we've got enough feedback to draft something for next go around. Is that, you guys all comfortable with that? Is that something you guys
I
think?
think we've had the discussion, we can make adjustments before we pass it into it, for the passage.
All right. Very good. Move on to item 6, the regular agenda. First item is to discuss and consider a special designated liquor license for BCW Inc., doing business as Silver Circle Bar for a dance, June 25th. Beginning at 3 p.m., ending June 26th at 2 a.m., of course that's this year. And a request to close the alley behind the bar on 2nd Street from Main to Woodford. I think this is something that's annually. Any of it, seem to add, Lisa, or is that?
No, the bar does this every year in conjunction with the alumni event, so.
I'll make a motion to, for a special designated liquor license for BCW, DBA Silver Circle Bar for dance to be held beginning June 25th, 2022 at 3 p.m. ending at June 26th, 2022 at 2 a.m. And to close the alley behind the bar on 2nd Street, Main Woodford.
Motion second, any discussion? Call roll.
Skylar?
Aye.
Sean?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. All right, next on the agenda is, Gene Hunt has requested that we, discuss, some dog issues in town.
Yes, thank you. You know, for the first 20 years of living here, I've never had a dog problem, but in the last 12 months, I have been seriously threatened 5 times by dogs in a way that was very scary. And I know of 4 dogs that have been put down because they have bitten people or attacked pets. And I don't know if we just have more dogs in this town or what the problem is, but it's a problem. I don't know what the solution is. I'm hoping that you could perhaps come up with something.
Well, it sounds like, at least in some cases, they've been dealing with that problem. There've been a number of dogs put down because they're aggressive or that somebody, I'm not sure what happened.
Well, 4 dogs seems like a lot of dogs to get put down in a year in a little town like this.
Yeah.
Were they 4 separate owners, you know?
No, it was 2 owners, and it was on 3 occasions that the attacks took place. One of the owners had 2 dogs that attacked another dog, and the other owner had 2 dogs that attacked people at different times, and those dogs were then put down at different times.
In my experience with this issue too is it is a lot of the same owners, and the dogs are dealt with, you know, in the way that it's set out, and then, you know, rehomed or euthanized or what have you, and then they require more, and it's the same.
Is there any fines for that? Are we just a dog at large fine, or?
There's fines, yeah, I mean, I think they have to go through the court, and if they're impounded, and, you know, there's costs involved in all of that get put back on the owner, but.
There's a vicious dog fee, or a vicious
Dangerous.
dog fine, or dangerous
Dangerous
dog as
dog.
opposed to just dog at large,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
So it's kind of like you go through the due process and you handle it, but then, you know, there's nothing to stop the owner from acquiring, you know, another animal.
This is all, I mean, this is based on city ordinance, right? The dog at large and the dangerous dog. Is there anything written about repeat offenses?
That's what I was wondering, if there was something we could add
Well,
back.
I know the way the penal provision in the code is that if you have a repeat offense, your fine's double each time. And I think
But you know, the ordinance didn't say what the fine was.
yeah, because it's a misdemeanor, I think the judge sets that, and then it's, I think, a maximum of $500, is that correct, Ron?
Can you write something into your dog ordinances that they won't be allowed a license if they have
That'll stop
separate?
them.
No, it won't stop them, but it also, it gives you another enforcement tool if they're not, you know, if that they won't be allowed. And I don't know how many of these the dogs weren't licensed anyway, maybe all of them, I don't know. but-
And when that happens and they're impounded, they're not licensed, they're not let out of dog jail until
Right.
they're licensed, and, you know.
I mean, if there's something in your ordinances that said if you have if you have 2 instances in a 5-year period, you won't be issued a dog license. I don't, not, like I said, not that it's gonna fix it immediately, but at least it gives you additional enforcement if you say, hey, you don't have a license for this dog because you've proven in the past to have more than one issue.
Yeah, if it tends to be repeat owners of the vicious dogs, that seems like it would be an avenue to explore.
I was gonna say, it almost seems like if you're a repeat offender or something like that, I feel like it should almost be more than a misdemeanor, or, you know, or like a second or third, you know.
Is there an ordinance, is there anything that, I can't remember seeing it, about the number of dogs or number of cats you can have on a property? Like we did, you know, we're doing with chickens, you know. Because then, before you call it a kennel, other than,
I thought 3 was the max.
That's what I was thinking.
I don't think there's anything in the ordinance that limits it.
I don't think there
I
is
read
either.
it.
No.
I've been kind of looked through that, I don't remember seeing
We've
it.
talked about that on numerous occasions with cats too. There is no maximum number.
I think there should be, if we're gonna change the ordinance at all, we need to discuss that part of it.
Yeah.
Well, you know, if you get 2 dogs together, they're more dangerous than one, but if you get 3, it's even worse. I mean, I can understand wanting to have 2 dogs just because, you know, for companionship, but if you get more than 2 dogs, they can get like a pack mentality.
I don't know if anybody, I know of anybody that has more than 3 dogs. I know a few people have 3, I don't know if anybody's got more than that, but probably is.
Yes, there's quite a few. So yeah, unfortunately, with this particular instance in Russia, there's a lot the city can do
I'd say
besides.
probably a lot of that would be, you know, what do you call it, civil suit or whatever.
Yeah, that's a tough issue. I mean, I guess we've talked about a couple of things, maybe look into limiting numbers per house or per owner. And doing something with repeat offenders.
I think, yeah, repeat offenders would be a big one.
I see several people in the audience here that do a lot of walking on our streets and stuff. Do you guys have
Yeah.
problems with dogs?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I've had one on the cowboy trail with pushing a 2-year-old in a stroller and
I actually have 2
shielding.
So we've got
on the Cowboy Trail.
6 or 7 people in the audience just in this small group that have a problem. So it's something we should address.
Yeah, any ideas appreciated. If they're out on the loose, they're already in violation, so.
And when one's chasing you, you really don't want to see if they got a tag and to see who to call.
Right, and if they don't have a tag, then plausible deniability that's even the person's.
I did actually have 2 of them, you know, a couple of years ago, I had 2 of them right in my front yard attacking my dog. Unfortunately, at that time, my dog was a Doberman, and those 2 didn't fare very well. They didn't come back, but I do know what they're talking about. I mean, I see them on the Cowboy Trail with no owner all the time with mine.
It's very scary. And
I started carrying-
it don't take long.
Clearly a problem.
Yeah, I
Sometimes-
started carrying pepper spray in
Yeah,
my
sometimes
stroller.
they'll run right up to you and they'll stop and never do anything, but you don't know that as they're coming up to you.
Yeah, and with kids, you don't want to risk it either, right?
So, these aren't stray dogs though, these are just dogs at large.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or we presume.
Oh, yeah, they have owners.
Shore up the dog catchers, give them more tools in their belt, more, you know.
Does aim
Well, I can fix that, but you can't shoot firearm attacks.
Previous,
I
one of
don't
the previous
think-
mayors
no, I
allowed
don't
me to
think
do
so,
that.
but I think that
Yeah,
the
I
dog
had-
problem,
I had a
I'm
bird
surprised
problem, he said, let me
police
shoot him with a
like
shotgun.
that. You know, a lot of calls.
Maybe, I mean, I guess I don't know how much authority we have to enact stronger, you know, measures on, you know, offenses. You know, I guess I just don't know. You know, if it's a dangerous dog, I mean, is it euthanized, or is it, you know, just give it back to the owner?
4 of them have been put
So
down.
some of them are, I know, sometimes depending on what the circumstance is, they might try to rehome, but it has to be rehomed out. Like, the one that I'm thinking of, I think went to South Dakota. They don't do it anywhere, you know, without declaring an area.
I'm sure the dog number's not going down. So I think we need to address this, put it on the agenda. We definitely, it sounds like we need to change our ordinance to the number of dogs and cats. And I don't think we just need to limit it to dogs. And then maybe look into putting a stiffer penalty on what can happen if these are violated.
If it's a dangerous dog, I think, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it should be no question, just get it out of here. I mean,
Well, they
yeah,
do,
this is the nice
and
one,
there
I
is,
guess.
I think, teeth in the ordinance for that. It's
There.
probably what you're talking about is kind of the dogs running at large and kind of charging you while you're walking, right? That's scary when they're coming at you.
Yeah, and two of the dogs that threatened me were eventually put down because they bit somebody else. So I was just really lucky that I wasn't the one that got bit.
So,
Yeah, I
once
don't
they
know
bite
why.
somebody, it's pretty clear what you do.
Is there any issue, I mean, if there's a dog at large, is there ever any issue with the person claiming the dog? I mean, we know all these owners are and everything.
I bet you if you invited the sheriff to the next meeting,
He tells us exactly who it is.
he could tell you all about it.
Well, and I think that is really is kind of, I don't remember who suggested it, but if we could look into something about if you're an owner and have had repeat offenses, that maybe there's some kind of limitation on it.
Yeah. Could we, I mean, we could just ban, I mean, could we ban a single person to have dogs if they are a repeat offender?
I don't know, Rod, some of that with dangerous dog is in statute, isn't it? So, the city only has so much authority.
I think it's somewhat problematic.
We would have to research that.
I guess you could do it and then
Start infringing on
consequences.
rights.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is some state statutes in the ordinance, so.
Yeah, they say when you get to dangerous dog and dog at large, I think there are statutes that govern, and, we can only enact within what's in statute.
Okay, so we'll have it on, we'll review the ordinance and have something at next month's meeting. And anybody that has input, feel free to forward that to the city office and try to incorporate that into the ordinance adjustments we propose. Is that good, Gene?
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Unless there's other comments, we'll move on and discuss future plans for the mini park and a request for the city to surplus the north 25 feet of the mini park on Main Street. I think we have some folks here, you want to discuss any of that first, or you want us to talk about it?
I
There
can.
you are, I
I'm
knew
back
that.
I'm back here. I've been in contact with most of you about plans for the, for ACDC and the Child Development Center. And where we bought the connection building. And with that came the 25 by 100 foot next to the building. We would like to purchase the next 25 by 100 feet if possible. We do have enough room with the 25 by 100, but it would be a much nicer play space. We are potentially going to be working with a company called Echo, which is actually part of the Nebraska Extension, to develop the playground space for us, which might be something of interest for the whole mini park idea, because they also do cities, schools, and they develop an entire plan. So that has just come up in the last week. We haven't signed anything with them or not, but I mean, it would be an idea. We do have a plan, if you would like to see, what the plan is for the area and the building. But we do think it would be a much nicer play space. And right now, the goal, we're fundraising now, obviously, so that may take some time. The goal would be to open in November of 2023, but that would depend on fundraising. So that's kind of our timeline. Obviously, I think 2024 is what the, so I mean, we'd be happy to work with the city on any plans or whatever, because we would like the area to look as nice as possible as well. So, but yes, that is our request, is that it be put up for surplus so we could bid on that. You guys have any questions? I think I've talked to most of you just about kind of what the plan was and the things.
I would like to see your plans for
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
I didn't bring,
That's fine. Are you talking plans specifically for that lot as well as the?
We just have a drawing of what, I mean, obviously it's gonna be a fenced in area. We have not, I mean, we have a drawing with some things in there, but if we work with this company, obviously I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly because we haven't signed anything with them.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, at this point in time, it would just be a regular play space. But we may develop it, and obviously if you're working with the Nebraska Extension, I mean, they have, the way they do it is they develop it for growth for children. So it changes, and then they also train their teachers on how to use it. So it's a learning environment outside as well as inside of the building. So it's developed as a whole learning area for the children, but they're learning things, they're discovering things, just more than your slides and swings and things like that.
Nature-based.
Nature-based. Now, that doesn't mean we're gonna do that. I just wanted to let you know that we were working possibly with this company and that would, they also work with cities, and so it might be something you'd be interested in as well with your plans, but, yeah, the request tonight would be just to keep something good. But yes, we can get you a plan what the plans are, because we have had an architect develop it. So.
I guess I'll start with my thoughts on the deal. So first of all, I'm excited for it to be built. I've got two very young kids, and most likely they will be utilized. My concern is that this lot, as you guys I think know, was donated to the city under the specific request that it stay a green space. I think that was the term. And I don't know exactly what legally constitutes a green space. I don't know what the donor intended by a green space. But I guess to my opinion, the only way to guarantee that the city keeps it a green space, so to speak, is to keep it.
So I believe that Lisa, you addressed that with me originally, and that there was no stipulation.
Speaking, the city owns 3 of the 4 lots. So this is the one that is in question here, and this is the 25 feet that the connection building has. It was the old depot building. This one was one that was donated to us by the Steck family.
Which is which one? 18, 17, or 16?
7.
17, the middle one?
And Joel and I looked back at the deeds early on when we first started talking about this, and it's not written in the litigation space.
Why? My opinion, a green space would be you can't build a building on it.
That's the way I see it too.
I think the 8 and 9, this 50 feet north of the theater building, when the theater group wanted to build a new building there, Rod, I think we looked into that, and you said that space was deeded as a green space. But this lot 7 that's in question tonight, to our knowledge, is not.
When you say it's deeded as a green space, that's like a classification, or?
That's what you had told us at that time, that it would have to remain like a park or you couldn't build a building on it.
Well, if it's dedicated like that, it's a covenant that runs with the land, it has to remain that way. It's a condition of the transfer.
So
But this particular lot is not written that way.
why do I think that it was donated with that? Was that written
We
somewhere?
talked about that, we thought it was.
I think our initial conversations, we thought it was.
Okay, so
And
you can
then
just
we looked
mistake
into
that?
the deed and found out that lot was not.
Okay.
So I don't know if that was part of the original communication, but it just never got put in to the deed.
But there's no
or we found
documentation
that out.
anywhere that that particular lot was supposed to remain a green space?
Not in the deed.
Okay, well, that changes my opinion significantly.
My thought on it would be, I think the project is a great project. Is there any way we can help them out with this and help this area more room for the kids to play and stuff like that? I'm all for that. My only, discussion would be is if for some reason, say 10 years down the road, this daycare facility doesn't work out and we have to close it, hopefully not, that the city regains ownership of that land.
Yeah, for what's the term,
Right of first refusal.
Right of first refusal. And that's the way if we was gonna do that, I'd wanna write that up in the contract, that it would be made back to the city.
A right of first refusal
It doesn't get you the land back.
is that you have to buy it
Yeah, right.
at fair market value, whatever has been offered.
We're putting the
You
contract.
could have a right of reverter if it is not used for the purpose that it's intended for, then it goes back.
That's what, just something, I don't know what the language would be, but some kind of language like that, that the city has the right, would be
You know, it's a
to
very,
get it back.
the right of reverter was used originally historically on 1 acre tracts for country schools where the adjoining landowner donated the land, but if it was ever ceased to be used for a school, it would revert back to the owner. And most of those have reverted back to the owner with the closing of the schools. And you could probably do the same thing here.
I think right of first refusal would be, I mean, enough.
Well, but what if we decided, okay, right at first refusal, they're gonna put $25,000 on that property and they only bought it for a fraction of that? You know, we'd have to, then we'd have to refuse it, you know, so I wanna have the opportunity to get it back for what we sold it to them for, or whatever.
Well, but if they do put $25,000 of, you know, value on it, that's kind of just, you know,
And that'd be something, some deals to work out on how we'd wanna work that deal out, but.
If you put it up for surplus, isn't it gonna go up for bids? There's no
That's-
guarantee the school,
That's
you're
my
gonna end up with it.
concern. We can't sell it to you, we can only surplus it and then it's open for bids, which, as you know, we did that once already with city properties for this project, and somebody else bought it. So,
are we,
that's a concern.
isn't there
I don't
some
know.
leeway with who we can choose for the bid? I mean, it doesn't have to be the highest bidder. Isn't there some leeway there, or is there, I mean, if they're within reason of each
I don't
other?
think on land, there's none, so it's
No.
hard to.
Any other way we do that, Rod?
What
Not,
if,
not on sale.
What about a lease?
what if
There's
the
a lot
city
of
maintained
governmental-
ownership
yeah.
and allowed,
There's been a lot of
We
governmental
would love that.
land leased to people for like 99 years.
I don't know.
Yeah. Where you
No, I
renew.
wouldn't suggest 99 year lease.
No, but I'm saying, you could lease it for X number of years, renewable. And
I do
that way
think,
you retain ownership and control over it.
I mean, honestly, we don't want
What do
to
I do?
pay for it if we don't have to. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it was donated to the city, so it's kind of a shame that we would have to, you know, stress about how high we wanted to bid on it when nobody else really has a use for it except the city or ourselves. I mean, and so putting it up to bid is like, you know, that is hard. But I don't think that we would be against a leasing. I don't know why that would not be good for us, so I'd have to think about that a little bit, I
why we
guess.
couldn't allow that use, that even addresses
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we still would own it.
Still ownership
So
of it.
that would never be.
And you really wouldn't have to cross that bridge.
Better solution.
Your group is really.
yeah, right, that was my concern, is I didn't want to sell it before the place was built, but if we're not really selling it, then that kind of changes that calculus too.
That sounds like a win-win.
I agree with that too.
So do you still want us to surplus it?
No.
Or should we just discuss it more?
I don't know if we need to discuss it anymore. Lisa, write that down somewhere that you're willing to lease it to us when we're ready for it. I think that's perfect.
7 minutes, it's
Yeah, I can't think of any other questions, I think. Yeah, I mean, I guess hopefully, all, you know, the city council's still gonna be in favor of that when we're ready to make the move. I guess that's, would be the concern. If we're, you know, 2 years down the road and then it's like, we're ready and then something else happened and it didn't work out, I guess that's our only, but.
Which, I mean, I don't think that would happen, but after the meeting tonight, we have an open house. We've been going through planning process, which included utilizing that space
Right.
with the downtown redevelopment, the Main Street redevelopment, so we have plans to look at, and so, you know, the timing is a little funky, but,
I think it could work together, actually. I mean, I think it could become a really nice looking area. I think there's yeah, there's plenty of room for the city to do something and plenty of room for us to do ours. I mean, I think working together would be great. I mean, I think it could be a really nice looking area. We'd be happy to work with you on that. Or
We'll just pursue that option
Okay.
and make sure that that's something that can work, if everybody likes that. Hopefully there won't be any glitches that would get in the way of that potentially, so
Okay,
that sounds good.
thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
All right, we'll move on to the next item, consider resolution number 22-05, authorizing membership in the League Assurance Government Health Team. Maybe I'll let Lisa talk about what's happening there.
For years, we have been, I should say, I have been asking the league if we could somehow do a government pool like we do on the liability and workers' comp insurance through Warren. They're kind of finally at that point. I think there's enough interest statewide now through the league membership, so they are trying to pursue that. They're trying to put together a municipal insurance pool. I've participated with them kind of through their information gathering and whatnot, and I've received proposals from them. Basically, what they're proposing is a Blue Cross Blue Shield plan. Currently, we have a United Healthcare plan, so it would be a change of carrier, but the plan is really pretty much identical to the United Healthcare plan that we have now. It's an HSA high deductible plan. The deductibles are very similar, so the city would still self-insure like we have been. It's a comprehensive options, so there's also, life, dental, and the whole sweep of benefits that the city, offers in its policies, so you can combine it all in. Currently, through the United Healthcare, just for the medical side of it, we're paying about $22,000 a month. That's a comprehensive total premium. That's not necessarily just city share, but with this plan, the way they've quoted it, it would be about $15,000 a month, so we'd save $5,700 and change every month. So our total savings overall would be about $69,000 and change. Of that, the city's portion that we're responsible for is just over $59,000 that we would save. The employee's portion would save just about $10,000 a year. So I guess I did get another kind of competitive bid from Kirk Peterson. He's who we work with currently for United Healthcare. It was an all-state package. Also very comparable. It's actually quite competitive as well. The main difference is it's not a full suite of benefits. It's just medical only, so there's no dental. So that would be a loss of benefit. I did meet with the union stewards, and we reviewed all this information, and their comments and feedback were they would prefer the Blue Cross plan.
Doesn't our union say we provide dental? If I run into a problem with dental, right?
And with the cost savings, it seemed like there was consensus, everybody was good with switching. We've had requests for Blue Cross plans from employees in the past, so that kind of fits with that metric as well. And everything else stays the same. The HSA accounts can stay, everything can stay. This would be a July 1 plan start date. They will credit back anything on a deductible so far, because our current plan year is September 1, so anything that an employee has met on their deductible, they will honor.
So by looking all this over, considerably, this is both a benefit for the city as well as employees.
I'm thinking that the benefit to the city is going to be much like we have seen on the liability side, is just rate stability. With our United Healthcare plans, we're a 15 and under employee plan. And our rates have been all over the place. I know when we first got United Health a few years back, it was a small increase, I wanna say like 4% that year, but then the following year it was like 22%. Then it was 12%, now it's 7%. I mean, it's just kind of, it's all over the place. Whereas with LARM, I think in the 7 years that I've been here, the liability, general liability has never gone above 5%.
If we decide to go this way, when did you say it would take effect?
July 1.
July 1, so that's quick here.
So essentially, because it is interlocal cooperation, essentially to form the pool, we would need, if we're all on board with this, we would need to basically pass the resolution to allow me and Joel to sign the interlocal agreement and membership.
It's not set up like LARM though, that is like it's partially self-funded, so like if they have a bad year with claims, you're gonna get, this is all Blue Cross Blue Shield underwritten as a group policy, as opposed to, you know, like with LARM, if you have, with that grouping, if you have a large year with claims, you're gonna see that, you know what I mean? I know, yes, it spreads it out over a bigger
Yeah.
group than what you
Gives you
currently
the
have.
better.
But I didn't know if it was like a partially self-funded thing where
Not
this
that
new
I'm aware
light
of.
group, oh, no, we budgeted for this and
No, not
we're on the hook for it. It's strictly through Blue Cross that writes and funds the whole thing.
Yeah, that's how I understood it. There are, the other benefit too that I guess I would see, you know, we do not offer vision insurance in the city policy. But going through this light group, we would be able to offer that as a voluntary selection to employees if they wanted to pay for that themselves. We would just administrate that, and then they could have a vision benefit as well, kind of like an FFIP.
I'm sure there's always a drawback to everything. Did you see a drawback to it?
I don't, I mean, the one drawback is that we were working with somebody local, you know, and that, you know, this is being offered through an entity called the McGinnis Group and the mutual through the league. So we wouldn't necessarily have a local contact here in Ainsworth. Otherwise, I feel like the cost savings alone and the fact that it matches identical to pretty much all the rest of the benefits that we offer is.
This day and age, we gotta do whatever we can to try to find some savings for both the city and our employees, every employee, no matter what business they're in.
So, yeah, my recommendation would be that we try to pursue it, and I guess if in a year or two we're not happy, you know, we can always rebid and look for something else.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2205, authorizing memberships into the League Insurance Government Health Team, and allowing the mayor and clerk to sign off on it.
Motion and second, any other discussion? Call the roll.
Sean,
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
Skylar.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously, thanks guys. And that brings us to our last agenda item, city administrator, clerk, treasurer report. What do you got for us, Lisa?
It was a fast month, I feel like the month of May, but that could have been because I was gone for a week for my own personal things, but, it's just the same old story, Highway 20, Highway 7, just a lot of continuing and ongoing things with, you know, design and development and funding and, of course, Rutgers is the subcontractor for the state for the Highway 20 project. It's doing the water sewer infrastructure, and they've started, they're working. We're gonna have, I think, Brett from Wilson's coming up once a week or twice a week to just kind of help oversee that, to make sure that our plans are being done like they should be. And outside of that, just been working looking at the garbage, information, rates, how we can try to do a per container type rate and still come in with the revenue that we need. And so I'm gonna be calling on our subcommittee here very shortly to sit down and hack through all of that to get a final package, I guess, to put forward. The seller's cabin, you know, we've had a lot of issues with the exterior on that building for years, well, really since the flood, but even a little bit before that. And finally, I found a guy that specializes in that type of work and was up and gave a bid, so we might be looking at what kind of funding we can, it was like $18,000 is the estimate that he gave to kind of replace all the chinking and scrub it down and refinish it and reseal it. So we might be looking into a lodging tax application to help with that project. The pool, as always, a little bit of issue at startup, but we've got it going, and now we just need warm weather. Nebraska Safety and Fire was here and put in the fire pump. And mechanical room, so we've got that finished.
All right,
That's about it.
anybody have any questions? Well, before I adjourn, I just want to make sure everybody knows that we got Ian and Jeff here from Olson's to talk about potential plan designs for Main Street redevelopment. So they're looking here for public input and would appreciate anybody staying and sharing their thoughts. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting at 6:15. Something to talk about?
Well, show us you proposing trees again?